took to Twitter and I asked y'all, who are the top 5 coaches in college football? Important caveat here, today, Junior. Not all time, not that are coaching and have done good things the last 10 years. I'm talking about today. There's a criteria that I took into account personally, not an exhaustive list, but I placed a pretty high emphasis on these couple of things. The first is obvious, winning. Doing your job, doing what you were hired to do as a head coach, win football games. Other part of this, program building. A couple of guys on this list now that didn't just inherit perfect situations, but found a way to get their teams to getting that first criteria box checked, which is winning football games. Also recruiting. Had some interactions on Twitter, and it was interesting to see how y'all built your lists. There were some of you that put other head coaches higher on the list over some of these coaches I have on my list because your feeling was that they just have better players. Well, for me, I think being a head coach in college football, recruiting is a part of your job description. And so for me, recruiting, I factored in to my list. Now, I appreciate all y'all that responded. We had almost 100 responses on that tweet, so thank you so much for that. A lot of great lists, and the interaction here, hearing from y'all is what makes this so special, makes us a community. So thank you for that. All right, without further ado, let's go 5 all the way up to number 1 here, and we'll start with the man in Columbus, Ohio. Ryan Day, for me, is the 5th best college football coach in the game today. And now, a lot of people that disagree with this are going to go right to the Jim Harbaugh quote about being born on third base and all that. And I understand that. I don't think that that's totally irrational. But for Ryan Day, he took over a plane that Urban Meyer gave him, the Ohio State football team, that was at a cruising altitude. And I'll say this, when you inherit a plane at cruising altitude, you still can't crash. You still can't steer that thing into a mountain. And Ryan Day, in no way, shape, or form, has done that. Do not let the losses he's had to guys that are ahead of him on this list, spoiler alert, take away from what he's been able to do. Since 2020, they've only recruited top 5 classes. He has gone 29-5 the last 3 years. He's had 2 college football playoff appearances the last 3 years, 1 national title appearance. He's won 88% of his games on the career. Ryan Day, for me, absolutely a top 5 coach today in the game, and he's only been a head coach for a short period of time. Like, he's learning on the job here. He's been a head coach here for like 4 or 5 years. A lot of coaches typically get the group of 5 job, eventually work your way up. Maybe you're a coordinator at a Power 5 school like Ryan Day was at Ohio State, but there was no head coach experience for Ryan Day prior to the Ohio State job. So for Ryan Day, for me, the resume and what he's done speaks volumes, and the Michigan games that he's lost, to me, those don't disqualify him from being a top 5 head coach. All right. Now, very, very excited to talk to y'all about this here. This show is brought to you by the good people over at Bird Dogs. And listen, I'm wearing some Bird Dogs right now. I'm about to show y'all. And here's the deal with these. They fit better than regular shorts. Like, a lot of times you get that stiff cotton material and you wear it and it's just like, it's kind of constricting. You can't really move around in it. I'm wearing these things right here. These right here. Dude, it's like almost 100 degrees in Nashville. I'm not wearing cotton shorts. Look at these. I can move in these. I'm agile. Look at that. Bird Dogs. Also, here's the thing. You look good in Bird Dogs, man. That's the deal. I'm married. I'm a married man. My wife would not let me out of the house with some shorts that look bad. Bird Dogs checks that box emphatically. Also, moisture wicking. They are athletic feeling. Going back to that, like, not constricting fabric, Bird Dogs taking care of you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. If you order from Bird Dogs and use promo code JD, that's linked in the description to this video, to this live show, get yourself a little Yeti-like tumbler, little Bird Dogs logo on it. Phenomenal. They do incredible work. You will not be sorry. You won't take your Bird Dogs off. Promise. So that's Bird Dogs. They've done a phenomenal job for us. And again, they are responsible for what we're wearing right now. I think they should be responsible for what you got on too. All right. So big shout out to Bird Dogs there. Moving right along here in the countdown. Brian Kelly is the number 4 coach for me in college football today. And we might get some pushback on this, but this is where I go to. For LSU, going into the 2022 season, the over-under win total on them was 7 wins. They had won 6 games the year before. And so Brian Kelly walks in, and what do? They win 10 games, and they win the SEC West. He's 21-5 his last 2 seasons. That includes the last season he just had where he won 10 games, inheriting a 6-win team. He beat Nick Saban his first year on the job. Now, he also has a top 5 class from the 2023 cycle that he's got on campus now. A lot of people say, well, Brian Kelly doesn't want to recruit. He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to do that. Doesn't look like it to me. Again, top 5 class. I'd keep an eye on them in the 2024 cycle. Think they'll make some moves. I'd be surprised if they're not somewhere in the top 10 come National Signing Day. That's my own personal feel on it. So keep an eye on LSU. And here's the thing with Brian Kelly. Coming from Notre Dame, he was pretty clear about one of the reasons why he left Notre Dame. For him, a lot of it had to do with resources and being able to recruit at the level he wanted to recruit at and be able to just have everything he needed to compete for national titles. So it's one thing now to say you need something, and then to eventually get what you say you need, to get what you, I don't want to say excuses, get what your excuse was, to get what you say you need, and then to immediately produce results in the best conference in America. I think LSU is set for a long time with Brian Kelly. That's how I feel about it. Emphatically believe he is a top 5 coach in the sport. His resume speaks for itself, even past this most recent sample size, but he's definitely, for me, a top 5 coach in the game today. Now, at number 3, we got Jim Harbaugh from Michigan. Look at what Jim Harbaugh's done just the last 2 seasons. Just look at this. 2 Big Ten titles, 2 college football playoff appearances, 4 different coordinators, give or take, 2 different quarterbacks, lost a lot to the NFL draft from 2021 to 2022. The common denominator in Michigan's success is Jim Harbaugh. And you look at what he's done it his way. There's been a lot made about, well, you can't play the style of football that Jim Harbaugh wants to play. You got to be a little more spread out. You got to be able to be a little bit more dynamic. Jim Harbaugh has done it his way. He's bet on his philosophy, and he has won. And I think for this coming season, I don't know if Michigan is in the position they're in if you don't have Jim Harbaugh as your head coach, if he hasn't built to what he's built to at Michigan. So a lot of excitement in Ann Arbor for good reason, but Jim Harbaugh, for me, without question, a top 5 head coach in the game right now. He's at number 3 for us again, but we'll keep an eye on where he's at this time next year, depending on what Michigan does in 2023. So that's Jim Harbaugh for us. Now at number 2, and this is probably, these top 2 really, you could probably swap if you wanted to, but this is how I feel about it. At number 2, I have Nick Saban. And before you throw anything at the television, before you turn off this podcast, Nick Saban is without a doubt, without question, the greatest of all time. Like, Nick Saban has got GOAT status. No question about it. 7 national championships, been to a natty 2 of the last 3 years. He won 1 in 2020. He's 2 plays away a season ago from being undefeated. Haters will yell from the back row and say, well, he's also 2 plays away from being 8-4. I hear you. I don't care. 2 plays away from being undefeated. And he routinely has had different coordinators in and out of Tuscaloosa. And it's not because Nick Saban wants him out every single year. I don't think that's always the case. I think a lot of it is people understand, okay, go coach for Nick Saban. Have a good time doing that. Probably have a nice chance to get you some jewelry. And then go take a head coaching job in another Power 5 conference, or maybe have a chance to go be an NFL coach. Like, that's the system he has in place. And consistently, the process and the way Nick Saban does things yields tremendous results. And they continue to do what they do at Alabama. Now, recruiting, they've have nothing but top 2 classes right now on campus. And when they use the transfer portal, they usually hit home runs with who they acquire. Jahmyr Gibbs being one of those pieces. If you have him at number 1 on your list, I have no issue. He would be number 1 if not for the run that Georgia's been on lately. And so that kind of brings us to our next coach, the coach that's the best in college football right now for my money. That's Kirby Smart. Here's the deal with Kirby Smart. Trophies don't play favorites. Never have, never will. The last 2 seasons, Kirby Smart, 29-1, 2 national champions. The they lost their defensive coordinator going into 2022. They lost 15 NFL draft picks from that 2021 team. Some pretty key pieces, I would imagine, from a national title team trying to run it back the second year. Also, a lot of people on the outside looking in, myself included, questioning who you got at quarterback, a former walk-on, Stetson Bennett. Yeah, they won it that first year, but I don't know, man. Like, that defense really carried them. New cast of characters, same quarterback that a lot of people didn't believe in. A lot of people told Kirby Smart, not the right guy playing quarterback. New DC, 15-0, run that back. SEC title, national title. Kirby Smart's on top of the game right now. I don't know how else you slice it. I think Kirby Smart is the best coach right now in college football, and the record indicates as much. Should be noted, on his way to winning one of those national titles, he beat Nick Saban. Beat Nick Saban in the national title game in 2021. When it comes to recruiting, it's against his moral compass to recruit outside the top 3 or so it would seem, currently the top class of 2024. Kirby Smart has got the game in a squeeze. I don't know how else to put it. So for us, the top 5 is as follows when it comes to the current coaches in college football. Number 5, I got Ryan Day. Number 4, I got Brian Kelly at LSU. Both those operations, I believe, are set up for success for years to come. Number 3, we got Jim Harbaugh. They expect big things in 2023. They expect a national championship. Jim Harbaugh, a big reason why. He's been the common denominator in their success the last couple of seasons. Number 2, we got Nick Saban. Number 1, we got Kirby Smart. Now, there's 2 names that kept coming up when it came to guys that should be in this top 5. And if you have them in your top 5, I don't fault you one bit. One of them is Lincoln Riley. The other is Dabo Swinney. And I want to address both those right now. I'll start with Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney, if you were to take a sample size of the last 10 years, I think is absolutely one of the best college football coaches today. My issue is these last 2 seasons, we've seen a slight downtrend from Clemson. Now, a slight downtrend at Clemson is a lot of places' best season of all time. I want to make that clear. But even so, last 2 years, multiple losses. For Dabo Swinney, my question is he evolving with the game? Now, I have no question about Dabo Swinney as a coach, and the way he's built his program and what he's done at Clemson is nothing short of sensational. But I don't know if the evolution of the sport and what these other 5 coaches have done is enough for me to put him into that top 5 mix. Definitely in the top 10, probably in that top 6, top 7, but Dabo Swinney for me, just outside the top 5. Now, Lincoln Riley, if you are shouting on a table for Lincoln Riley to be in this top 5, I do not blame you. I think you have a very valid case, and I'm not even worried about the college football playoff record. Like, you made the college football playoff. I'm not going to dock you for making the college football playoff and run into LSU. Like, it is what it is, man. It happens. They got Joe Burrow. But for Lincoln Riley, here's my greatest issue with why I couldn't put him in the top 5, for me personally. Lincoln Riley, his teams have consistently had that same weak point, and that's defense. Defensively, Lincoln Riley has had a blind spot. And I think as the head coach, you're responsible for the entire organization. You're responsible for every part of the operation. That includes the defensive side. Lincoln Riley, an offensive coach, an offensive mastermind, that's what he does. But he's not an OC. He's not just responsible for calling plays. He's responsible for the entire team at USC. And so for the defense to continue to be lackluster at USC and during his days at Oklahoma, I pin that on Lincoln Riley. Heck, I'll say this too. I think Lincoln Riley pins it on himself as well. I think he understands they have to improve. That's why they did what they did through the transfer portal. But for me, Lincoln Riley, definitely one of the best coaches in the game today. Is he top 5? On my list, I have him just outside that territory. So, those are our top 5. Continue to get at me on Twitter and let me know. Continue to get in the comment section and let me know. Get in the live chat and let me know. I want to hear from y'all. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.